What is going on, guys? Blazing Tech, and in today's video we're going to be talking about which budget-oriented iPad you should be buying in 2020. And here's a clue: Apple doesn't want you to know about it. So in today's day and age, the iPad market is saturated in options that are both budget-friendly, that are Apple Pencil compatible, as well as options that are very flagship and very expensive. With so many options, if you're in the market for an iPad today, it'll be easy for you to make a mistake. Alright guys, so in order to help me out a little bit, I'm using Apple.com's Compare iPad feature. Don't pay any attention to the iPad mini 2. So if you navigate Apple's website, you're going to quickly find that the two budget-oriented options are the iPad Air 3rd Gen and the iPad 7th Gen, which they're about the same screen size. The iPad 7th Gen comes in at 10.2 inches, whereas the iPad Air 3rd Gen comes in at 10.5 inches. And they both weigh about the same, and they're really the same thickness and everything like that. But the difference is going to be that price. That iPad 7th generation comes in at $329, and the iPad Air comes in at $499. So let's take a little bit of a dive and see why is that such a difference in price, and why are there two different quote-unquote budget-oriented iPads on the market. So let's start off with the iPad Air 3rd generation. When you jump to that higher $499 base price, you're going to get an A12 dual chipset, and it has a neural engine as well. And compared to the 7th gen, you've only got the A10 Fusion chip, which has the M10 Motion co-processor. The rear-facing camera is going to be the same on both of these displays. That's really kind of going to be the biggest difference, is that you're going to have a newer and faster chipset with the iPad Air 3rd generation, as well as the fact that the resolution of the display is going to be a little bit different. Let me scroll down and find that right here. Yep, the iPad Air 3rd generation is 2224 by 1668, whereas the iPad 7th gen is only 2160 by 1620, and I'd really challenge you guys to see the difference. I think both of these displays are going to be very sharp, but you've got Touch ID, you've got a fully laminated display on this, the iPad Air 3rd generation, and what that means basically is that if you looked in the very corner of this iPad and this iPad, the screen is fully pressed up against the glass, or the part that you touch, on this one, whereas on this iPad there's a little bit of a gap. You've got to be a really tech-oriented person to know that, but the displays are going to be very similar in terms of performance and such, and just overall resolution. So what's the catch here? Obviously, you're going to want to save that money and go for the iPad Air 7th generation, correct? The only other really big downfall is that this one has a much worse front-facing shooter than this, but let's be honest, are you buying an iPad for the front-facing camera? No, I don't think so. The only thing that really troubles me is that this iPad, starting at $329, the base capacity is 32 gigabytes, and in my opinion, that's not going to cut it in 2020, especially if you're using this iPad, let's say, as a note-taking machine or a media consumption machine. It's definitely doable, but if I'm paying $329 for a product, I want something that's going to be a little more, I guess, future-proof. So I would naturally say, okay, if this is 32 gigs for $329, this is $499 for 64 gigs. How much does a 64 gigabyte model cost for the iPad 7th generation? And Apple, being very intelligent and knowing that consumers would think alike, they jumped directly from 32 gigs to 128 gigs, which 128 gigs is great, but I don't think the average consumer will use 128 gigs. So they've made it a $100 price difference, which, when you're comparing $429 to $499 for 64 gigs, again, this is for the everyday average consumer, 64 gigs is definitely doable, and the fact that you have a newer chip, people are probably going to go ahead and go for the iPad Air 3rd generation, thus kind of neglecting the savings that you could potentially have with the iPad 7th generation. Enter the iPad Pro 10.5, which is being sold refurbished on Apple.com, but it was sold new from 2017 to 2019 at the same price, at $379 for a refurbished 64 gig. And keep in mind, this is a Pro. This was a flagship in 2017. This is easily the budget iPad to rocking a 10.5-inch display at the same resolution of the Air 3, A10X with the M10 Motion coprocessor. It's got that really fancy laminated display as well. It's very sleek design. It's compatible with the Apple Pencil 1 as well as a smart case, again the 1st generation. Stylistically, dimension-wise, and weight, this iPad is the exact same size as that $499 iPad Air 3. You can see it's just beautiful, extremely thin. The rear shooter has 12 megapixels, and it also has a True Tone flash, and it's also capable of 4K at 30 frames per second. But my favorite feature about the iPad Pro is that it has a full stereo surround. It's got 4 speakers, and you guys don't know how awesome that is to consume media. I mean, it really takes my audio to the next level. With the perfect blend of affordability and features and unique features, the iPad Pro 10.5 refurbished for $379 is the perfect iPad in the early quarter of 2020, especially if you're working on a budget. It's just so beautiful, it's so sleek, and it's just going to be supported because it was sold for so many years. So I can definitely say that $379 is a worthy investment for this iPad. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, Blazing Tech, and we'll catch you on the next one.